What's up, Dreamer Tribe? What's up, world? I am Vianca, and welcome to my first ever video that has anything to do with books. So yeah, books. They're one of my most favorite mediums of entertainment, and I figured that since I did promise to post content related to books and not just to video games and movies, I decided that the best place to start would be, of course, to start with a book that I'm pretty proud of myself, considering that I am the one who wrote it, and that is, of course, this book here, Winged the Awakening. So unlike, I'm not gonna go and review this book because, let's face it, that would be pretty biased. So instead, I'm gonna share something from this book, which is basically the prologue part of the book. Prior to me restarting and rebooting this YouTube page or this YouTube channel, I did have a blog, and in that blog I would constantly talk about this book because, it's a marketing strategy. It is my book, and I still consider this video partly marketing strategy on my part, and also partly because I find it interesting. It's an interesting thing to do, to read something from my book. So yeah, let's go and read the synopsis. So 16-year-old Gabriel has a few things in his mind on his sophomore year: to survive high school and everyday life at Ever Heights, be normal and blend in. An easy feat for some, but for Gabriel, an orphan and amnesiac living at the town's cathedral, it's more than a daunting task. When Freya Ritual, a beautiful and enigmatic young girl, arrives in Ever Heights to learn from Reverend Spall, and the two become friends, weird things start to happen around them that makes Gabriel's life that much harder than simply trying to fit in. An ominous presence stalks them and shows them vivid images of death and destruction. A storm suddenly appears and envelops the whole town, then disappears as quickly as it appeared, and no one seems to remember about it. Dead birds raining down from the sky, and a fog that renders the townspeople unconscious and makes them disappear. Then there are those visions and dreams that Gabriel keeps having about a man named Siegfried and a woman by the name of Lucia, both of whom seem to have something to do with his elusive past. But that's not all of his worries. Before he knows it, Gabriel is thrust into a world that he never imagined existed. A world filled with magic and mystery. A world filled with danger. A world where love, courage, and faith are the strongest weapons he could wield. And a world where his past, his present, and his future lie. The only person who can show him the way is the very person who can cost him his life. So yeah, I'm gonna go and read the prologue section of this book, which is basically what this video is just going to be about. There's no animated sequences here or ongoing video or like other background video apart from me reading the book that I wrote, or a part of the book that I wrote, which is the prologue section once again. So if you guys are ready, I am going to go and start just that. So forgive me if I start a little bit in this video, but anyways, Wing the Awakening, written by yours truly. I'm not sure if you can see it. Prologue. So let's begin. The wind howled furiously around them, beating the dilapidated house as if it wanted to truly destroy what little safe haven they had left. Rain poured down heavily from the dark, tumultuous, stormy sky as if the heavens were crying at their current predicament. The young man pushed his wet black hair from his forehead and from his deep blue eyes. He was so drenched from head to toe that he could have passed as someone who had fallen into a river, which wouldn't have been too much of a surprise for him if it had happened, considering how their luck had been. The clothes he wore, a pair of old Converse, torn jeans, a gray shirt under a dark green hooded sweatshirt, were grimy and clung to his body, showing the muscles he had built over the years while practicing a number of sports. The thought of sports sent a torrent of memories rushing back at him, memories of the life, the normal life he had once lived. A cold chill ran down his spine. It wasn't just because of the wind and the weather, which was more than just a turbulent storm, but also because he had come to think of how much his world had changed dramatically. He knew the dangers of letting his thoughts run and fly off into the past like that, especially under the current circumstance, but he couldn't help it. He may constantly deny it, but he missed and craved for the normal life he once had. With a flash of lightning and earth-shattering thunder, he was able to catch a glimpse of what remained of their little sanctuary. It was a structure which could have once been a beautiful one-room cottage with its rectangular massive body arranged picturesquely into asymmetrical blocks imitating the sprawling look of a century-old small villa in Italy. The low-pitched roof now had a large gaping hole. The heavy support brackets under the eaves would have been beautiful with their pearly white paint and elaborate carvings, but these were now gnarled and bent, the paint slowly peeling. The windows, with their heavy hoods and swirling designs, were already broken. Some were carried off by the storm, while others had their panes smashed by flying debris. The creaking wooden floorboards were now wet. Some were loose and in danger of flying with the strong wind, maybe even smashing what remained of the windows. The whole house groaned as if it was a living being, capable of feeling the pressure of the unnatural weather as its body was being dismantled and torn apart. was an air of peace around him, of hope that things will get better, that they would be able to live through the night despite the danger that was drawing near and that was sure to come. He wanted that moment to last. He turned to face her, tipping her head with his fingers so that his sapphire eyes stared intently into her golden ones. 3 distinct words played on his mind, the words that he had long wanted to tell her but never had the opportunity to do so. There would always be someone or something that would interrupt just as he was about to utter them. "Lucia, he began, his voice shaking. But the words never came. It never escaped his lips, as another flash of lightning and another roar of thunder gave light to the room. He saw a figure draped in darkness, standing by the door which had been torn apart by the storm. He quickly scrambled to his feet and Lucia did the same. Instinctively, the young man moved in front of his companion. Like a knight, his body acted as a protector between her and the robed intruder, a taken. Seeing the intruder and knowing what it was, the young man knew that the others pursuing them were not far behind. "There is no escape now," came a shrill voice from the man before them. The robe that clung to the man's body was made of tendrils of smoky shadow, flexing and moving as if they had a life of their own. Ghostly apparitions appeared from each of them, moaning and wailing spirits that seemed to be trapped inside his robe. The skin that was visible through the man's clothing was deathly pale. It wasn't the same kind of paleness that Lucia's skin had. It was sicklier, almost corpse-like. The Taken stretched out his hand, inviting them closer as he said, "Hand her over and your life will be spared, Guardian." The Taken spat the word guardian like it left a bad aftertaste in his mouth, which it probably did. There was no question to the amount of animosity that raged between those of his kind and the Guardians. The young man gritted his teeth and willed himself to draw upon the power within him. With it, he summoned a weapon which appeared in his hand with a brilliant flash of golden white light. It was a one-handed sword with a hilt made of pure gold. On the sword's pommel were 2 snakes whose bodies were coiled around each other, acting as the grip of the sword. The sword's guard was shaped like unfolded wings. The blade was made of celestial silver, and it glowed faintly like a beating pulse, basking the room with a mixture of golden and silvery hues. On the flat side of the blade was a group of angelic scripts made of golden lines and markings that no human would be able to decipher. The light from these markings was more vivid than the light from the sword's blade. It was from these markings that the strength and power of the weapon lay. "I would rather die than betray her and the oath that I had given," the young man shouted over the beating sound of the rain and the howling of the wind. His grip on his celestial weapon tightened even more, as he readied himself for the assault that he knew was inevitable. The Taken did not waste any more time. The young man knew that the Taken wanted to kill him before his brethren arrived so that he would boast of this accomplishment and then take Lucia away. The Taken lunged at him with his own abominable weapon, a crimson-red blade with a hilt made of dried bones and a guard shaped like a human skull. The young guardian gently pushed Lucia away before he met the attack. With every strike he let out and with every parry to the enemy's blow, he gave it his all, knowing that there was no room for hesitation. Lucia's life was at risk, and he would do anything in his power to protect her and keep her safe. It was his duty. It was what he was born to do. He was aware of his surroundings as he was trained. He knew that Lucia was stricken by the battle before her. He knew that she didn't want to feel helpless and that she too wanted to fight. She had once told the young man that she wasn't any damsel in distress. She was an angel capable of fighting and wielding magic, but as powerful as he knew she was, the young man couldn't risk her joining the fray. Unable to sleep and rest properly for days, she was weak. Using her magic now would only do more harm than good. But more than her disdain for her current helpless state, she was worried about him, the one who was risking his life to protect her. The young man didn't know how long it took until he finally gave the final blow to the Taken's heart. As soon as he did, the abomination curled up into a ball with an eerie moan before vanishing with a puff of black smoke and an explosion of dust. The young man knew that it was quite a long battle, based on how tired he felt. He didn't feel as victorious as he should have felt after just winning against one of their sworn enemies. He had never gotten used to taking another person's life, even if that life belonged to a taken. Not only that, but he did not come out of the battle without a scratch. A gaping gash was on his right arm from the attack, and he didn't realize it until after the battle that he was hurting and bleeding. He tore off his ruined sleeve off his sweatshirt, revealing the wound not only to himself but to Lucia as well. "You're hurt," was what she said after giving a gasp as she saw his wound. She moved forward, her hand outstretched. The young man knew what she was about to do. "Don't waste your energy, Lucia," he said, his voice hoarse and his throat dry, stopping her not only with his words, but also by taking a step back. He could not allow her to heal him. He would not allow her to waste her energy on something like that. Although the wound hurt, the young man didn't lie when he told her, "It's not as bad as it looks." "But I can't just let you bleed to death," she protested. He shook his head, trying to give her a reassuring smile as he spoke. "Stop exaggerating, Lucia. I'm not going to die because of this. Trust me. Besides, we may need that power of yours for something more important than this." Silence filled them before he turned and looked around, surveying their surroundings one more time. Seeing and sensing that no other taken was near, he quickly took Lucia by the hand and together they made a run for it, out of the broken-down house and into the raging storm in the middle of the night. He didn't care if he was hurting or if he was tired. He didn't allow fatigue to show on his face or to slow him down. He did what he was trained to do, to think about nothing else but the safety of his liege. They didn't know where to go, and it didn't actually matter to them where they were heading as long as it was as far away from the house as possible. They both knew that the other taken were not far behind. The only thing illuminating their path as they ran and occasionally fell was a young man's celestial weapon and the lightning from the storm. The trees were of no comfort at all. Instead of shielding them from the rain and hiding them from those who were pursuing them, they merely proved as obstacles. The low branches acted like hands and claws that hooked themselves on their clothes and scratched their bare skin. The stubby roots were enough to trip the pair, but still they pushed on through, never daring to slow down. Finally, they stumbled out of the forest and found themselves at a clearing. The faint light from the distant town of Everheights flickered beyond the natural storm. "There," he said, pointing to the direction of Everheights. "We should be safe at the town's cathedral." Lucia nodded and looked at him with the same worried expression that was on her face minutes, perhaps hours ago. She asked, Will we make it there safely?" He took a look at the stretch of forest that they emerged from and then back at her. He could sense that they were near and that it would only be a matter of time before they managed to catch up with them. He said, "You can make it safely there. You should fly to town, Lucia. It would be faster that way. I'll buy you enough time for you to get to the cathedral, and then, I promise, I'll meet up with you." Her eyes widened at the young man's suggestion. He knew how she hated it when they were separated, even if it was only for a short while and even if it was her safety on the line. "No, I will not leave you," she told him. Her soft, melodious voice was shaking, laced with indignation. "Who knows how many of them are still after us under this dark storm?" "That's precisely the point, Lucia. You know that my duty is to ensure your safety no matter what the cost," he reminded her. She didn't have to think too much about his safety. He and those that were like him knew the risk that came with being a guardian, but she was worried and didn't want to leave his side. At that moment, he finally understood the reason why his grandfather warned him about being too close to his liege. "I am safe enough with you. We'll arrive at Everheights together," she said with finality. She was about to say something more when her eyes suddenly went wide with a mixture of surprise and horror. Before he could whirl around, he felt a sharp pain on his chest. As he looked behind, he saw a dozen of the taken. One of them had a bow aimed at him. The young man wondered where the arrow was until a pain in his chest exploded and he found himself falling with the blood-soaked arrow sticking out of his chest. He heard Lucia shout no and saw, with his already fading vision, the taken moving towards Lucia. He wanted to move between them, to do his duty and protect her from these creatures that were sent after her, but he couldn't. He could no longer move his body. Moments later, he heard her scream something that made no sense to him. His mind was already jumbled up with incoherent thoughts, and he was already losing consciousness. It was, however, a scream that he figured would always be etched in his memory should he survive, which now didn't seem much of a possibility. As she screamed, there was a blinding flash of light. It was like the sun exploding, and then, at that instant, she was gone. Just like that, he knew that Lucia had perished in the hands of the Taken. After so many months of hiding and fighting, she was gone. The last thing the young man remembered before fading into the depths of darkness was the thought that he too was dying. He was dying and he was alone. He had failed to save what had mattered most in his life. Most of all, he wasn't able to tell her how much she really meant to him. This was his regret when the memory of that moment, the moment when he could have told her that he loved her, was the last memory he had before everything turned to nothing. So yeah, that's basically it, guys. That's the prologue chapter of my book. I know I stuttered a few times there, but there you guys have it. Now, this book is actually available worldwide. It's being sold on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. There's also an ebook version on Smashwords if you're interested in that. I will post links on the description below on where you can buy it if you want to support me and this book. This is actually the first book I already have right here. Give me a moment. The second book in the series. So yeah, I'm actually working. I think the third book is just right around the corner. But yeah, this is the first book. What I read was a prologue of the first book. Also, I wrote this book ages ago. I published it 2012, if I remember correctly. Yeah, it was published on 2012. So it's that long ago. Well, this is actually the first book that I published, although in book form, you know, I've written a lot of stories online, but those are just online and never really got the same book treatment as my winged books. But yeah, there you guys have it. So once again, I'm pointing in the direction of the description below. If you guys want to get yourself a copy of my book. For Filipino viewers who do not have access or do not wish to buy from Amazon, you guys can contact me directly in order to direct you on where you can actually purchase my books if you are interested on, you know, supporting me, my writing, and my books. But yeah, anyway, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you all for watching. If you guys want more of these reading videos, just let me know. I have tons of books that we can probably go through. And also, I will be doing my first book review sometime next week if my schedule would allow it. I've already picked the first book that we're gonna review on this channel, and it's a pretty interesting book, and I'm really excited to talk to you guys about it. So yeah, thank you all for watching, for taking the time to watch my videos, and I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, you guys know the drill. Dream on, fly on. Bye bye now. What's up, Dreamer Tribe? What's up, world? I am Vianca, and thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed the content of this video, don't forget to hit that thumbs up button to let me know. And also, if you haven't subscribed yet and you want to be a part of the Dreamer Tribe, just hit on that subscribe button. We also have tons of different content here on my channel, so be sure to check those out. Until the next video, dream on, fly on.